Hey guys, it's the first day of Arboralis. I showed you my starting video. I showed you my quick, expensive day one guide just to clear on 99. Now I'm going to be showing you my day one guide for scoring decently. As you can see here, I am at the current time of this video, rank 1 at 888,000 points. Yep. Pretty decently. Of course, it is day one. It is very early on day one, so I have no illusions that I'm actually number one. It's just that at the current time, this is a rank 1 strat. That'll change as time passes. Anyway, for the team I'm turning on Party Resist Down, Hit Point 150 for the enemy, Bosses Attack and Magic Up, Hit Point Lock, and Party Resist Down. I am not turning on either Defense or Spirit, and I am not turning on the HP modifier, the other one, the weaker one, because with my team, I tried it. I was a little bit short of OTK in Phase 1, and it messed up my strategy, so we're leaving that off. If your team is more powerful, then you can, of course, turn it on, and, all the best. We are going to level 99, though, so let's get in here and get into it. Same team. As it turns out, my initial just throw a team together is still working pretty well. Now, of course, disclaimer, this is still day one. I am quite sure that by the end of the event, many people, maybe even myself, will figure out ways to drop units like Kresnik, who are obviously contributing 0 damage. Maybe there's even a way to drop the tank and get better damage in, but for the moment, at the current time, we still don't have the boss's AI. So, no data mine yet. We're still figuring things out. So this is the current early high score run. This will most definitely change as time passes. Okay, and I'll put an initial turn chart and all in the comments, but again, this is only for those of you that want to try hard on day one. If you're looking for the final guide, you're going to have to wait a while. Anyway, so Ambush, base form Maze, it's passive provoking. She's going to then shift. By the way, if you saw my original 99 guide, things like evasion, not important at all. You don't need evasion, you don't need accuracy down. I'm still learning as I go. So anyway, we're going to provoke, cover, and immunity buff on turn 1 with Maeve. Kresnik on turn 1 is going to arcane antioxidant. Sky on turn 1 does whatever, just Magnus, who cares. Carton on turn 1 is going to 1,000 Needles. He's using, I forgot what elements he's using. He's using a fire weapon and, an earth weapon. So he's sealing fire and earth with 1,000 Needles. Laura is going to seal with Cursed Current. That's a water attack from an Esper. That's a water attack. She's also using a wind and a lightning weapon. So Laura is sealing wind, lightning, and water. Carton is sealing fire and earth. Bulwark on turn 1 is just going to do Mixtape, and then Kupo Clang to break the boss. It's a relatively low break, but Clash of Wills bosses have enormously high passive, so it's not that big a deal. Okay, our Maeve is currently using large amounts of resistance. Lots and lots of resistance. She's going to be immune to everything, pretty much. Even with the imperils, she's immune. You want 375% resistance on your tank after a buff. So my tank has 375. The rest of the party only needs 175 after a buff to ice, light, and water. Anyway, so turn 2, Kresnik will do Arcane Shimmer to start filling that up. We're going to sing Zidane's STMR on turn 2 with Sky, because our big burst turn is going to be turn 7. We're going to reload Carton and Laura to just seal the boss again with all 5 elements. Maeve on this turn is going to provoke, cover, and fill morale gauge. There's a new parameter to fill morale. I don't know the exact number, but it's definitely more than 200%. You need to keep filling the morale gauge after 200%. I don't know how far, so I just fill as much as I possibly can, and I get perfect score on it. We're going to shift turn 2 on Bulwark. We're going to fill morale with Chirp. We're going to do Bulwark's theme for the permanent mod boost, and Plant Killer, or more importantly, Plant Mitigation. Now, our Maeve is immune to literally every single element, even after the Imperils. So Maeve doesn't really need much bulk. It's only really for the normal attacks because she's not evading. She does have 50 evade naturally, so she is evading half of them, but some of them she's not. But the normal attacks deal pretty low damage, like 1,000 damage or something, with all her mitigations up. But as you can see here, Maeve was imperiled to ice, was imperiled to light, hasn't gotten the water imperil yet, but we're still immune even after the imperils. The balls will probably do the water imperil this turn. Anyway, so now turn 3, Kresnik will just do Arcane Remedy, just for the immunity buff. That'll be auto-cast the rest of the fight. Maeve, Carton, and Laura are going to just repeat for the next few turns. And then Bulwark, back to the base form. We're going to Hurricane, Morale Fill, and Bulwark's Blare. Now, the Hurricane is a 60% wind amp and a 135% wind imperil. The wind imperil is actually kind of irrelevant because the boss's self-imperil is way better than anything we could possibly do. But it is a 60% wind amp for the entire party and an imbue. So that's where our element and imbue and amplify is coming from. 60% from Bulwark. He's also doing 150 plant killers. So he's a pretty decent option if you don't have like Tiana or something, which at the current time I do not have her. Okay, so turn 4. We're back in the base form with Kresnik. If you wanted to, you could use the LB. I'm not going to because it's actually more morale to just triple cast Potion, Antioxidant, and Remedy pretty much every turn until we need him for later. Let's see. We're going to reload Maeve, Carton, and Laura. And then we're going to shift Bulwark, and we're going to just Chirrup. We're going to Mixtape, and we're just going to refresh that Plant Killer so that the minor normal attacks on Maeve don't deal that much damage. Now, even if we weren't doing that, like they're not going to do anything. Like I said, we're completely immune to everything with Maeve except for the regular normal attacks, which she even then she has a 50% chance of evading them because of her natural evade. And I'll show you the gear and all at the end of the video. But yeah, all these normal attacks we are immuning or negating. Also, we're using resist on everyone else. I think I already mentioned that. Anyway, yeah, turn 5, we're not ready to set up yet, so we're just going to repeat all of these guys, except for Bulwark, who is going to go back to the base form. We're going to Morale Fill, we're going to Kupo Clang, and we're going to Instrument in Peril. And again, the reason we're using Morale Fill on Bulwark, even though we're far, far past 200%, is for the scoring. At some point, someone will work out the exact amount of morale needed for the score, and we can maybe ease up on some of that and, you know, maybe even replace Kresnik without his morale fill. But for the moment, we are, yeah, there you go. The normal attack, it did 275 damage to Maeve. So the normal attacks are just not a threat at all if you're wearing resistance. So anyway, like I said, we're going to be bursting on turn 7. So on turn 6, we're going to start getting ready for the real damage. So Carton needs to Fist in Peril. I forgot that in my other clear. We're going to Cursed Gift, and then just Haunting and Shrouded. Don't use the imbues on Carton. Laura is going to Seal again. Maeve can just repeat. Kresnik can just repeat. I guess we're not really doing that much to prepare. We're going to go through the shift form with Bulwark. We're going to Hurricane. We're going to Mixtape, and we're going to Killer Buff. Okay, and we're going to do our first burst on turn 7. Don't forget we did turn on the HP lock, so this is going to be only the first part of this clear. Here's a bunch of drains on our Maeve, but because she's completely immune with Elemental Resist, it's dealing nothing. Same for all the attacks, the party is immune. Now, you may notice I've never shifted anyone like Carton, Laura, and Skye. None of them have shifted because they're not wearing resistance gear in the shift form. And without resistance gear, they would get destroyed, especially with all the boss's attack power modifiers turned on and the party resist down. Anyway, Zidane's STMR song is done. Let's go ahead and do some stat buffs for our first burst. We're going to... Maeve is going to stay in the shift form, and we're just going to support chain. We're going to triple Bolting Strike with Maeve. We're going to triple Mascaphony with Bulwark. Now keep in mind, Bulwark's Mascaphony is an AoE re-raise. That's going to be important because once we shift our DPS that are not using resistance gear in the shift form, they are going to get destroyed. So Laura is going to shift. We're going to go ahead and Volatile Ammunition. Carton's going to shift and do Frenzy. Sky is going to shift into our LB. It's not stacked at all yet. There's probably ways to figure out to fit in stacks earlier in the fight. Maybe sync with someone else and seal with someone else. Again, those are things that'll be optimized as the week goes on. But for the moment, we're just doing an unstacked Sky. Okay, and we're going to chain all 5 of these. We're not going to chain Kresnik. We're going to chain these 5 guys. That's going to give us the 100 count chain score. It's going to push the first threshold, and it's going to do the highest burst that we're going to be doing with this current team. Of course, variance is a thing. Laura and Sky are both double hand. Carton is dual wielding. Anyway, we're going to do our burst. It should push the 50% threshold. When you're clicking, make sure Laura is the first person you click because we're doing her 90% defense break. Anyway, let's go ahead and send these guys off. Now, I probably should do things like delay the support chainers like Maeve and Bulwark to build the chain because their damage is irrelevant, but I'll work on that kind of stuff later. For now, we were just worried about getting a clear in, or a decent clear. Anyway, now Kresnik is going to normal attack 4 times. He's got quad attack equipped, so he can refill Laura, Bulwark, and Sky. So here comes the bosses. Not really a threshold, just regular turns. We did 1.7, not terrible. You need 2.5 for the new damage cap, so 2.5 billion. Keep in mind, we also do not have any defense or spirit modifiers turned on. Once those get turned on, the boss gets way bulkier, and I don't know how we're going to cap this guy, if it's even possible, even with Tiana. Who knows? But we're not worried about that today. As you saw, Laura, Carton, and Sky all died and re-raised. Now, if they weren't wearing immunity in base form, they would die multiple times, and they'd still be dead. It'd be bad things. That would be terrible. But thankfully, they re-raised, and their base form is all wearing absolute immunity, even with the modifier turned on. So they're all wearing 175 to all of their 3 resist in the base form. So they survived after re-raising. Now keep in mind, the boss's mitigation went back up after that. So to get rid of that, we're going to base form Carton, 1,000 Needles, Laura base form, Cursed Current. That's going to seal the boss yet again. Sky can just do a Sharp Spear focus, kind of whatever, not really much for her to do here. If anyone happened to have survived, by the way, the threshold, for example, maybe they evaded, maybe they gutted, etc., put them back in the base form for this turn so they're nice and safe. Kresnik can just put up all the immunity buffs again, so we're going to Potion, Antioxidant, and Remedy. Maeve can just do her cover and stuff, so we're going to cover, provoke, etc., and just fill morale gauge, doesn't really matter. And Bulwark on this turn is going to rebuff those that died. So Wind Imbue, we're going to mixtape himself, and we're going to put up a killer buff for next turn. Now, because we sealed the boss again, and it is past turn 6, the boss's buffs will go away again because we resealed him. So there we go. The mitigation is gone again, so we can finish off this fight on turn 9. Okay, some attacks, kind of whatever. We're still covering them all, and we're still immune to all the damage with, as you see, we're resisting it all. Yeah, that damage is crazy, 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 but it's ice, light, and water damage. Okay, so as you see, the boss has no mitigations. He still has his permanent defense, or resist down. He's got Spear, Hammer, and Fist in peril. Notice the Instrument in peril has worn off. We're going to deal with that in a second. He does still have the good defense break and all. So to deal with that Instrument in peril, we're going to go back to the base form with Bulwark. We're going to Hurricane. We're going to Kupo Clang and Bulwark's Blare. That's going to put up the Instrument in peril again. We can turn the attack and magic buff back on. So we've re-imperiled, re-imbued, re-amplified, re-killer buffed, and all that after the guys died. None of these are stacking DPS except Laura, but she died. So we're going to go ahead and just Volatile again with Laura. We're going to Frenzy again with Carton. And we're going to LB again with Sky. And we need to finish off the boss. Now, of course, we're not going to have support chainers this time, but overall, those aren't a super big deal. We're also not going to have the Zidane STMR buff. So, because we do have the 150 HP modifier turned on, the boss is bulkier, but this should be fine. If anyone's LB is not filled, you can normal attack Kresnik as well. So we're going to go ahead and chain this up. This should, for the most part, comfortably finish off the boss. Yep, there it is. It wasn't really, honestly, a slam dunk finish off, but we did finish it off. So there was our second burst, obviously less than the first, but it's all that really mattered was the first burst, which is what that was a 1.7 clear. You know, variance is a thing. We need time to optimize our team and all that. Here is the damage breakdown. Keep in mind this is across 2 different fights, or 2 different bursts. Also, when I was gearing, I gave priority in this order. I gave Laura, Sky, and then Carton gear priority. So Carton is using leftovers, and he's still outdamaging Sky because Sky never has a chance to stack up. I might potentially re-gear my party and give Carton second priority on gear instead of Sky. But you know, I'll play with it as time goes on. 908,000 total score at this point. Very nice. Give me a red pearl. No red pearl. This fight is not going to be fun to farm for red pearls, and I may not even do it. But there we go. I'm an even better score at rank 1. Of course, after the video comes out, that score will be going down. But let's go ahead and show the team's gear and explain it and all. So here's the party. You saw what we did. So Bolting Strike with Bulwark and Maeve, as well as Laura and Carton. Those 4 combined give us a 100 count chain score. Sky caps the LB. If I had Tiana, I would probably replace Sky with Tiana and just use her quad cast Bolting Strike, or maybe try to fit her LB in. Maybe her LB would be better. Sky or Tiana can just sing like Sky did and then use her LB on the kill turn or the burst turn, and then the second burst is not really that big a deal. It didn't really matter that much, honestly. But yeah, anyway, let's go ahead and show the team that we did use before we optimized it, you know, as we spend more time with this fight. So everyone on the party in any form that is ever active outside of the burst turn needs 175 after a buff resistance. We're using Kresnik for the autocast 60% resist all buff, so we only need 115 to ice, wind, and light element on everyone other than the provoker or the tank. The tank we're going to get to in a minute. So 115 or better to ice, wind, and light. We do shift with Bulwark, so both forms are geared identical. You do not need evasion. Evasion, not important. So just conductor's batons for a little bit of morale fill, some resist gear. There we go. And the shift form geared identical. So Bulwark provided 60% wind amplify, wind imbue, 150 plant killer, and a 30% instrument in peril. That was his contribution to the fight. Who could Bulwark be replaced with? I don't entirely know, because that 60% party wind imbue amplify is pretty strong. Like Lara Croft. Well, Laura can do her own fire amp, but the boss isn't weak to fire. It's weak especially to wind, lightning, and earth. Bulwark is going to be hard to replace. Maeve can probably be replaced. I don't entirely know. Here's the base form. We start in the base form with 100 passive provoke and 175 because of the modifier. We're using the 75 resist down. 175 to ice, water, and light resist. Passive provoke. I gave her status immunity. I don't think statuses matter for the ambush. And then we shift on turn 1 immediately, and we stay in the shift form the entire fight. So the shift form is all that really matters, the magical tank form. This form needs 375 resist after a buff to ice, water, and light. We're using 60% buff from Kresnik, so that's 315 ice, water, and light. That gives us absolute immunity to all the boss's crazy magic. Less is probably okay because Maeve is bulky. If you're using someone else, it's harder to gear. As long as you're close to high resistances, you should be fine. But she's going to be getting a 200% in peril on top of the 75% resist all down modifier we turned on. So after that, we need still immunity. Here it is. We're not using passive provoke in the shift form. We don't need it because she uses her active provoke every turn. We're also using her immunity buff every turn. I don't even know if the boss does status effects, but just in case, we are using immunity buffs, so that's fine. Here's the build we went with. The card, only because of the resist all. It's probably a better card. I didn't really spend too much time building it, because as long as you're immune to elements, you're fine. Now, who can she be replaced with? really any magical tank. She did do triple bolting strike on both of the chain turns. No, I'm sorry, only on the chaining kill turn, the burst turn. What other magical tanks have triple bolting strike? I think Diverty does. I think Diverty does. Well, he could work. I know Beatrix does in the base form. As long as you can gear the base form enough resistance, it should be fine. But anyway, and we might not even need a tank once I get through and play with the fight more. I'm still waiting for the AI. Once the AI is out, then I can really start optimizing. But until it's out, I'm taking a magical tank just for the safety. Kresnik for morale fill, resist all, immunity buffs. Basically it. The big thing with him is morale fill. I tried to clear earlier where I basically killed the boss as soon as I hit 200 morale, and we were not even close on the damage. The morale score, the new criteria, I think I was at like 17 out of 30 or something. So we definitely need to overfill morale. That's why I chose Kresnik. He also has LB fill. That's not super critical. That can be handled other ways. But yeah, he has again 115 to ice, water, and light resist. Shift form, pretty much the same build. There we go. Laura in the base form, I already covered it briefly, but she's using a wind, a lightning weapon. She's on Kokuryu, which has the Cursed Current skill learned. This is a water physical attack that so that handles 3 of the elements, and all she did every single turn, except for the burst, was seal water element, water, lightning, and wind with 115 or better. I'm sorry, no. Okay, so the DPS need 175 unbuffed resist to lightning. I'm sorry, ice, water, and light, because they die on the burst turn and they re-raise into the base form with no buffs. And if they don't have 175 unbuffed to ice, water, and light, they will die a second time. It'll throw off your clear and bad things will happen. So there's the build we're using for her. Do not need evasion. Evasion is not important on the DPS or anyone. Shift form is using a double hand fist build. No resistances. We only shift on the burst turn. We shift, we burst, we die, we re-raise, we're back on the base form. So there we go. Magister is for the chain cap. Killers. This is a hard race to build for. 6600 attack power, double hand fist, 220 aqua, and 145 plant. Could the build be better? Very likely. I'll play with it more as time goes on. Carden, same concept. He's sealing fire with Nyx Dagger and then earth with Dynamo Dagger. And he's using 1,000 Needles every turn. Honestly, I don't really think Mirage is important. I really don't, because we're immuning all the damage anyway. This is one of those, like, well, why not scenarios, because he has nothing else to do. He's got to seal every turn. So I use Mirage just in case. I don't think it's really important. I really don't. But I never tested it without Mirage, so maybe the first attack is a big deal. I don't know. I used Mirage. You can try it, see if you need it or not. But again, it's one of those why not things. Base form, 175 to ice, water, and light. Shift form, dual wielding. Here's the build. Killers against plant and aqua. Again, no resistances. He dies in the shift form. Who cares? 225 plant and 275 aqua, and he actually outdamaged Sky. So I need to change priority and give him the better gear over Sky. Sky in the base form was our singer. Again, 175 or better to ice, water, and light. Singing Zidane's STMR, and that's pretty much it. Turn 1, she basically passes her turn. She sings on turn 2, she bursts on turn 7, and then she dies and re-raises and bursts again on turn 9. Shift form, used in an instrument because spears suck in the game. Maybe using a spear and her own spear in peril is better. I don't know. It would free up a materia slot for more killers. I got to play with the builder. I'll do that later. But for now, she was using an instrument build, LB damage versus plant and aqua. So here is the build. We've got 50 aqua and 225 plant. This is a hard to build for a race. So there was my clear. Currently rank 1. After this comes up, I'll probably drop a little bit. Who knows? Overall, this boss is really not hard as long as you do the mechanics properly, and we figured out the mechanics within an hour with no data mine. So this is not really a complicated boss. It is just maybe a little bit annoying, very bulky, but it's not hard. Like, it really isn't hard at all. It doesn't really do anything. As long as you got resistances on, it doesn't really do anything. It's super easy if you're resisting the damage. Anyhow, here's the video. Hope it helps. I'll see you later.